Hello again. Welcome back. It is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, along with Debbie Georgiani. I am Jerry Usher. The show team is in place, and we hope to keep them busy today. You are there. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. We're going to do something, I don't think we've done anything like this before, Debbie, in the over 5.5 years of doing the program.
We're going to ask our international listeners and Take Two family members. You do not have to be Catholic. We have a lot of you fine folks that listen to Take Two each and every day. So we're going to ask you to weigh in because we need your perspective on this. Right, Jerry?
Yeah, with the United States sort of falling apart before our eyes, we thought we would ask people from around the world, how do you perceive the U.S. right now? And a couple things I want to mention right away here first. First of all, we're taking a little bit of a chance on this because we know across the U.S. we have a big listenership and people participate. Internationally, we know we have a lot of listeners. Will you be able to step up? Will you be able to make that phone call? Outside of North America, it is 205-271-2985. So we're just going to put this out there again. It's a little bit of a risk to see how much participation that we get. And the other thing I wanted to say is it might sound a little bit kind of arrogant, like, oh, here are those Americans again, asking all of us what we think of them.
Right.
But really, where I put this on the calendar and where my heart is on this, friends, is, we've got just in the last few years, just in the last year or two, it just seems like the violence, the hatred, the tension, the division, so much stuff. It's like our country is burning down in front of our eyes. And, Debbie, there was once a time when, the United States was kind of like the Leave It to Beaver country in the eyes of the rest of the world, back in the 50s and 60s, and kind of a place everybody wanted to live. It looks like a lot of people still want to live here. But anyway, I'm rattling on and on here, but what do you think about this topic, Debbie?
No, I understand Judeo-Christian principles, and people look to the United States as leaders and freedom, and people were really proud to be American. And the landscape has definitely changed. It's definitely shifted. Some things for the better, and some things, I personally believe, really are heading in a very destructive, especially spiritually destructive way. And so that's just like my take, because I live here, so that we just want to find out what you feel. And when you see your local newspapers and your local broadcasts, when they talk about the United States, does that change your view of it? Do you feel differently? Do you admire the United States? Do you say, wow, they're really making some changes very quickly? We want to hear from you. Now, we do have a lot of listeners from the UK and Ireland, and you guys always contact us through social media. Please do that. We will read those comments. So we're waving to you right now on Facebook and on YouTube. Thanks, you guys, for watching and listening. But if you can call in, like Jerry said, it's country code 1-205-271-2985. Now, this doesn't stop our folks here in the U.S. and Canada from calling. If you guys want to share, please do so. Maybe you've lived outside of the country for a while and you're like, wait a minute, we need to appreciate what we have right in front of us. So please call in. Don't let that stop you. And the number to dial is 833-288-3986. There's two of us, right? Jerry and I are doing this together, Take Two. That's not really the reason, but it does take two of us to do this show because it's very fast. But there's two of us, and we can navigate this conversation from within the U.S. and also internationally. So let's go, folks. There you go. The lines are lighting up, Jerry. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, and as Debbie said, the invitation is there for those of you who live in the U.S. or maybe Canada. Maybe you came to this country, looking for, opportunities, a better life, things like that. And maybe you found that. And now maybe you're looking at some of the things that are going on and saying, wow, this is not It's becoming an unrecognizable country based on what I wanted to move here for. I will simply say this from my perspective. I'm distressed. There's a lot of good things going on. Don't get me wrong. A lot of great movements, ministries, and things like that. The Holy Spirit is still very, very much at work. But my spirit is deeply troubled by so many of the things that we're seeing. And so what we wanted to do is just say, okay, we're kind of on the inside looking at everything that's going going on. Basically, we're hoping to get the perspective of some people who are maybe outside the borders of the United States, maybe some other place in the world. As you, like Debbie said, you read your news, you look at the papers, you see online things. What is it causing you to think about the United States? 833-288-3986 in U.S. and Canada, and outside of North America, 205-271-2985.
Maybe you live in South America and you're listening right now and you'd like to share your thoughts about what's happening. There's a lot of movement going on right now. People are, migrating to different countries and things are happening. And, there's just a lot of things going on. And like Jerry said, and I said earlier, some are really, advancements and really good for ministry and getting the gospel message out. And then in other ways, it's very problematic, I think, in so many ways. And basically it comes down to this idea, in my opinion, of this idea of pushing God out of everything. It's like the first thing we tackle, we pull God right out of it, and then we start to tackle the issue. I don't think you can do that. We are made for God. We are made to get back to God. And when you pull God out of it, it's just a mess, in my opinion. It's like chaos. And so I see a lot of that happening here in the U.S., Jerry, and it does disturb me. I'm a history buff, very big on World War I and II, and everything that happened in Nazi Germany. And I'll tell you what, Jerry, history can and will repeat itself if we don't learn from history. And I'm a strong believer in that, Jerry. And you know how I feel. And I just feel like we're almost, well, not almost, we're erasing history, folks. We're rewriting history. That's dangerous. That's what I think. Anyway.
Yeah, well, those are the things that we are looking for people's input on today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie at 833-288 EWTN or 3986 within the U.S. and Canada and North America. And if you're international, like we have a caller from Sweden coming up, and we're getting some social media comments as well. If you would like to make that phone call, it's country code 1, and then the number is 205-271-2985. If you're watching the video stream on YouTube or Facebook, weigh in there. We would love to get your comments, kind of asking people how you see the United States when you look at this country here in 2021. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We were going to take your calls when we come back.
Lent, a season of grace with Father Cedric Pesena.
The same Holy Spirit that drove Jesus into the desert has to drive us, to lead us, to control us, to push us, motivate us, and empower us to change and to be illumined. And I pray that this Lent, the Spirit will touch you in powerful ways.
Lent, a season of grace with Father Cedric Pesena. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hi, Take Two family. Jerry and I would love to have you join our Inspired by Faith Book and Fellowship Club. There are hundreds of members already. Each month, our facilitator, Gigi, selects the book and we all read together during the month. Then, there's a live Facebook chat at the end of the month to share how the book impacted you. To join, click on the Book Club tab at the top of the homepage at standtalltoday.com. That's standtalltoday.com. Join today.
Here's a thought from Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar. You shouldn't let another person decide whether you are happy or grouchy. When you concentrate on the actions of others, how they act and how they don't act, you'll get lost. They're the same people all the time. The problem is your reaction to them. Love is what the Lord asks of us. If we must love even our enemies, imagine how we are expected to love our family members. Get Mother's calendar now at EWTNRC.com.
Today, if you live outside of the United States, to give us your view. What are you seeing? We want to see it through your lens of the United States, of what's happening here and all the changes and all the division like Jerry shared earlier. We want to hear your view of the U.S. If you're in the U.S., we want to hear your take on this as well. We're asking our international listeners and loyal Take Two family members to please weigh in. So the outside of North America, number is country code 1-205-271-2985. And we will put you to the front of the line because you are calling long distance. And then if you're inside the U.S., North America, call 833-288-3986. And Jerry, I'll let you do the honors with this highlighting of this product, because you actually have talked a few times about Cardinal Pell, and I was wondering if you could comment on this.
Well, EWTN Religious Catalog has a wonderful new publication that you want to definitely check out. If you remember the name Cardinal Pell, he was the one who was accused of sexual abuse in Australia and ultimately acquitted. The Cardinal Makes His Appeal is the name of the book by Cardinal George Pell. Wrongfully accused and convicted for crimes he did not commit, the Cardinal endured more than 13 months in solitary confinement before his original conviction was overturned. And in a stunning example of mercy and forgiveness, he bore no ill will and used his time in prison as a kind of extended retreat. So now available for you, read his spiritual insights, prison experiences, and personal reflections on current events, both inside and outside the church, as well as moving prayers. It's paperback, 348 pages. It is really going to be a boost to your spiritual life and your reading library. Available now at EWTNRC.com. You get free standard shipping for online orders, $75 or more in the continental U.S. only. So use the code FREE at checkout at EWTNRC.com.
That is so amazing that he had the strength to write while he was in solitary confinement. I think I would go absolutely mad if I was in solitary, and yet he used it to be very productive, and it's going to benefit all of us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, where are we going first? Oh, you just took a sip of water. Okay, don't. You know what? I used to do this all the time when I was a server. My timing, I would always come up to the table as the people were just taking a bite of food, and they'd look at me and they go, "Can you wait like 2 seconds?"
Mm-hmm. Well, as we said, we have a call. Our first call is from Sweden today, and Yen is on the line, listening on TuneIn Radio, and a first-time caller to Take Two. Yen, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. So nice to have you calling. Welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
You were asking for a foreigner's perspective on what's going on in the United States at the moment. And the way the United States is represented in media over here is it's sort of a narrative that I think gives a very skewed perspective of what's happening. During the Trump era, all the media, all the Swedish media, even the Danish media, all they could write was basically, the narrative of Orange Man bad, and it was a very one-sided storyline that's being told, and it was worrying because when you look at some of the alternative media that are out there and some of the alternative radio stations, the large conservative or Christian radio station, it's a very different story that you hear. So I think a lot of people over here have a very, distorted view of the United States. We used to look to the United States for culture and for freedom and politics and stuff that happens in the trends in the United States would propagate to Europe, like with a 5-10 years delay. So what we're seeing now over there in terms of the divide between all kinds of groups, let's say blacks against whites or women against men and all these different identity politic confrontations that we're seeing, it's worrying to know that we will be seeing that here as well in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Well, we hope and pray. We'll pray against that happening. But like you said, Yen, it is almost certain to happen. But you put your finger on so many different things. And I think the number one thing right now is just really killing us, tearing us down, is the identity politics. Debbie always says, she doesn't like labels. Well, I mean, maybe saying you're white or black or Asian or Latino or something, maybe that's not a label. That's who you are essentially in your human person. But, when you've got, all of these identity politics going on, and you're sort of raising some up and bashing some down. And I just think it's naturally going to create division. I think we're seeing division that is being sown, and as the flames are being fanned, Debbie, that's my perspective on this. It sounds like Yen has been definitely paying attention to what's going on over here in the U.S.
And the interesting thing,
I would agree.
Go ahead.
No, I would agree, because all these identities that are being used for, putting one group against another, does not define who we are as people. Mm-hmm. I'm not defined by the color of my skin, or by my political ideology, or by my sexual orientation, or that doesn't define who I am. I am created by God, and there's these different opportunities and setbacks that life gives you. We're not all equal by the end of the day. We're not all athletes or super clever scientists. I mean, we're very different, and to reduce us to these strange identities in terms of skin color or other cultural markers, if you will, I think that is to reduce the diversity of human beings. Mm-hmm. There was a pope, I cannot remember the name, I want to quote him, but he says that the problem with pornography is not that it shows too much of people. It's the problem is that it shows too little. And I think that's exactly the same with these identity politics. It's not that it's not that it's not a defining character somehow, but it's not the entire person.
Right.
And, I think that's the danger.
Well, Yen, that's exactly why when Jerry said that I don't care for labels, because that's exactly what it does. It limits us. It puts us in boxes that we're unable to get out of. Once you're in that position, you're cornered. And what are you supposed to do? You sit there and you defend yourself. Nobody's listening because the label has already been given to you. And so you wear it like that scarlet letter, and it's there, and it's unfortunate because it doesn't allow us to grow, to learn, to evolve, and to really do what we're supposed to do here, Yen, and that is to get closer to God and to make this a training ground, an experience that really helps us for all of eternity. I just want to say something real quickly. Thank you so much for taking the time for calling in from Sweden. You are just a beautiful soul. We appreciate that so very much. And as you were speaking, Jerry typed over to me, you may have been referring to John Paul II, of what he said about, and such a great pope. Jerry and I loved John Paul II so very much. I mean, he's just one of our favorites. And I just want to say it's interesting that our first caller, is calling in from Sweden, because on our news shows, Yen, all the time there's a comparison of the U.S. to Sweden. They're saying, we should take a page out of, Sweden's book, and we should look at how Sweden's doing this and everything. It's very interesting. And, I wish we could all just come to the table and really explore each other's best, contributions to this world, build on that, and watch people thrive and watch people grow. Instead, you're right. We are literally, with the identity politics and everything else that's going on, we are destroying one another. And how is that going to benefit our children and grandchildren? I don't know. I think they're going to be left with a complete mess. Anyway, I'm rambling, but you go ahead, Yen. You probably have more comments.
I'm just thinking, when you reduce people to these identities and you make them a victim of their gender or their sexual orientation or their skin color or whatever the case may be, that's a huge problem, because if you are a victim of something, then you're not able to buy. Then it's not your own fault. You cannot grow out of being a victim. So by victims of people, by putting them into these identities, I think that's very destructive for human nature to grow up as some sort of victim. Mm-hmm. Another just quick note I want to say is comparing the United States to these mini-put countries in the Scandinavia. It's it doesn't really compare, because there's things that, for example, I'm actually a native Dane. I was born in Denmark. And it's a very small country, about 6 million people in total, 6 million people in Denmark at this moment, which means that there's a very high rate of social trust between the Danes. We're basically one big community, share a very distinct culture and language and all these things. And that allows us to have very large and very expensive welfare systems. But as the population grows, we have a large influx of people from the Middle East and North Africa with a completely different view of state and government. These social welfare systems tends to break down, because they have a very different perspective of how they're supposed to work. In Denmark, it's very shameful to go and ask for social benefits and go and ask for help. You do it as an absolute last resort. But if you come from a country where you don't necessarily trust your government, and the government might even be, what do you call that, a kleptocracy, robbing the people, then you have a completely different perspective, which means that when you come to these very generous welfare systems, you take up as much as you can, because that's how they work. So there's some clash of cultures that doesn't really function well. As a small homogeneous population of Danes, for example, you work well, but not when you have these multicultural. I like to say that I'm the biggest socialist in the world with my family. In our family, I share what I earn and all these things without any problem. But as further we go from my core family here, the less I share with people, and the less I'm willing to give out, I guess. So.
Right.
The bigger a group that we're supposed to that you want to rule, the smaller the amount of rules that we can agree on becomes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Yen, you've said so many beautiful things. I've said this on the show before. I wouldn't dream of going to, say, Russia and insisting that Russia, change to like an American lifestyle, or, if I went to another country, I would do that because I wanted to be part of that country and, assimilate myself into it. Not to say that you don't bring your uniqueness and your own differences, and people can really appreciate that. But I just think sometimes, we're seeing there's this push for the one world family, global government, and all of this stuff. And I just think that we need to retain our uniqueness, our individualness, while loving one another. And you were alluding to there, the sharing with others, it shouldn't be imposed upon us. We should, out of the goodness of our hearts, want to share what we have with other people who are maybe less fortunate than we are, or don't have the same opportunities that we do. So much more we could say about this, Yen, but thank you so much, brother, for your call from Sweden. You've really started the show on a great note. What do you think, Debbie?
Oh, I'm so grateful to Yen. Thank you so much. You're not a first-time caller anymore, so call us anytime, okay? And God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of your Lent, and I'm going to say it because you may not call back in time. A happy early Easter, Yen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Yen. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie today. We're inviting international listeners, members of the Take Two family. Wherever you listen, you're a member of the Take Two family. And we just wanted to know, again, without sort of shining a light on the U.S. and saying, aren't we great or anything, we just want to know, we have a lot of concerns about the direction of this country, things that are going on. And we're just kind of curious to know, how is it being, portrayed in other parts of the world? How is it being perceived by you or maybe others? Yen mentioned the media in Sweden. 833-288-3986. And Debbie, Lulu is watching the video stream on YouTube.
Hi, Lulu.
In the United Arab Emirates. She says in UAE, they have entire movie theaters for autistic kids. In other words, the USA is poor when taking care of certain people. Well, what do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, don't even get me started. I was looking at how much money was raised for all these campaigns and everything that went on. And I'm thinking we could have fed everybody in the United States and taken care of medical needs, 3 times over. Unbelievable. I don't know. I don't think that's being good stewards of God's, gifts. Anyway, what do you think, Jerry? When you look at these campaigns, they raise like $10 million in one night.
Oh,
You could feed all of Arizona.
You could feed the world. Actually,
Yeah.
I would love to see about a 3, maybe 6-month campaign window. Definitely campaign fund caps on how much you can raise, term limits on how long you can be in office. I mean,
Yep.
I don't think our founding fathers ever envisioned the, quote, career politician. But anyway, these are just some musings of ours. What do you think, Take Two family? 833-288-3986. Outside North America, 1-205-271-2985.
Mother Angelica, Scott Hahn, Father Wade Menezes. You'll hear the leading Catholic voices on the largest Catholic media network in the world. This is the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
We should pray because prayer is conversation with God, and conversation is the only way to build a relationship. We need that relationship with God. We should pray and talk with God about what's on our hearts, what's on our minds, what's active in our lives, the joys we have. We should share all of these with God. Prayer is conversation, and conversation is the only way to build a relationship with God. It's the most important relationship. All of our other relationships depend on this one.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck. This is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. I just had the pleasure of speaking with Paul Kengor about his latest book, The Devil and Karl Marx, Communism's Long March into Death, Deception, and Infiltration, published by TAN, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog. Paul, tell us why you wrote this book and why it's important, do you think, today?
Doug, I've known about this dark side of Karl Marx for a long time, especially his writings about the devil. He wrote a poem, he said, "Thus heaven I forfeited, I know it full well. My soul, once true to God, is chosen for hell." Now, it's hard to know there if he's being autobiographical or not. In a sense, it is autobiographical.
Right, very good. The book is The Devil and Karl Marx by Paul Kengor, Communism's Long March into Death, Deception, and Infiltration. An interesting read. Check it out through our EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. Look for the interview coming soon on the network and on the web. Thank you so much for stopping by. EWTN Bookmark Brief. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. Do you have questions about the Catholic faith? Get the answers on Call to Communion, coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, we thank you wherever you are in this big wide world of ours. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. A lot of international listeners. We hear from you regularly, usually predominantly on social media if you're watching the YouTube video stream or the Facebook video stream. And we're inviting you to participate as well as everybody else today. We're just talking about with the United States seemingly in kind of a free fall of decline in many ways. Again, we don't want to discount the good things that are going on, but things are definitely changing and in many ways not for the better. And we just are curious to know outside of our walls, our borders, Europe, Africa, Asia. We heard from Yen in Sweden. Wherever you happen to be, what is your perception? How is the United States perceived where you are? 833-288-3986 in North America and beyond. 1-205-271-2985.
I just wanted to do a shout out to Tim, who's listening on the Rock from Bricksville, Ohio. Call back. You had an interesting comment there. Call back if you can, Tim. And Ryan's waiting to pick up your call. And also, Jerry, we're getting a lot of social media comments and a lot of text messages and emails. And there was 2 that came in back to back from folks that are outside, that live outside of the United States. And they made the comment, and they were very gracious about it. They said, we seem to be a bit spoiled in America, that we have so much. And a lot of people around the world don't have as much as what or have the ability to have as much like we do in the United States. And we're Are we ungrateful? What do you think, Jerry?
Well, I think we have a lot. We're a nation of great riches, and I think that is why, for many, the American dream has been to come to the United States. And many people have done just that and made out quite very, very well, and not just the U.S., but Canada and other countries as well. We heard from our dear friend Marion. We can maybe read her email shortly here, but I think you're right. You get a little bit, look at one way to look at this is in how we practice our religion, our faith, especially this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Are we a little bit soft? Are we a little bit flabby? You look at some other countries, Africa, for example, where there's so much terrorism in terms of, you get the kidnappings of the schoolgirls and so many other places around the world where there's violence and outright attacks on Christians, and yet the faith is flourishing in places like that. So I think we need to pray definitely for our country that if we are a little too comfortable in some ways, that we can definitely, realize the good that we have, but it's all a gift from God, and it can be taken away at any minute.
That's right. We're going to get to Sue, but real quickly, I made a little mistake because it was written differently on the screen. It's Tim from Brecksville, Ohio. I know Brecksville well. It's a beautiful area. So it's Brecksville. And Tim, if you're listening on The Rock, call back, please, at 833-288-3986. Ryan has to go quickly and put everything up on the screen, and he does a phenomenal job. But sometimes we may get a town that's a little bit off. So help us out, or help us out with your pronunciation of your name and everything else. We want to do it correctly because we are family. Now we know how to pronounce Sue. So Sue's in San Antonio, Texas. Guadalupe Radio Network is the way you're listening, Sue. Hi and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my call. I have 2 points I wanted to address. One was what Jan had just said about labels and how we label everything now in the United States. This month is supposedly International Women's Month, and that is an honor for every woman. Well, I understand that our president has just signed a proclamation or an order or something that says it is also International Lesbian Women's Month. And to me, that just adds another label that we don't need to have, and it deflates or deflects from women that are not lesbians. And to me, I find that very, very offensive. The second thing I wanted to talk about was I've worked with missions in Zambia, Africa for several years, and the people there, with all of the stuff going on in the United States, have been sending me messages and praying for me and for our country. And a lot of people in Africa are wanting to come to the United States to evangelize again, because as they were evangelized and taught Christianity by the Anglican Church, they want to now come and reteach the American people. And to me, that is an incredibly thoughtful thing on one side, but incredibly sad on the other. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yeah, well, Sue, if you can, please stay with us. You've touched upon so many very, very important things. You mentioned the International Women's Month, and then the president kind of breaking out a group from that and saying International, Lesbian Women's Month. I mean, I have to ask the question, would lesbian women not feel included in an International Women's Month? I don't know. I'm not inside the minds and hearts of them, or the president for that matter. But, this again, just you alluded to what Yen was saying, and I think this is a big part of this conversation right now, is when you continually just splinter various groups by identity and, fraction of identity or slightly different identity, pretty soon you got people looking at each other going, well, I'm like you, but I'm different from you, just continually accentuating the differences. And just on your mentioning of your friends in Africa, texting you and so forth, saying they're praying for you and they're praying for our country, that tells Debbie, I think that says something, Debbie. They look at what's going on here. And, a lot of places in the world there is religious persecution that has devolved into violence. I think the only difference between many of those countries and the U.S. at this point is we haven't yet really seen a whole lot of outright violence, but maybe the day is coming when that's going to happen. We don't know. God alone knows.
Well, there's one thing that I have noticed, Sue, and I would love for your comments on this. I have a lot of friends who are priests from Africa, their families, and they still have a lot of their family is over in Africa. And when their families come over, when they did prior to the pandemic, or I went to a couple of celebrations, anniversary of their priesthood, they really generally have the such a strong, vibrant spirit for the faith. They are alive in the faith, and it is so beautiful to watch. And I watch here in America, and I'm just saying this, I know I'm going to get emails from like North Dakota and South Dakota and Indiana, and you guys are doing, great. Your churches are packed and everything, but I'm talking about other areas, okay? And you watch people and they look like the Walking Dead, when you talk about, church or going to church. Sue, can you comment on that? Because I feel the spirit is alive and well in Africa.
Absolutely. It is incredible to watch over there. The people will have to walk everywhere too. So you're talking, they might be walking 4, 5, 6 miles to go to church, and be there for several hours and then walk back 4, 5, 6 miles back in the evening. And the praise and worship is amazing, and it doesn't have to be just Catholic. I'm associated more with the Anglican Church, but it's still very charismatic, and even in the Catholic Church in Africa, because I did go to Mass when I was there, and it was amazing to watch the joy. The song "I've Got Joy Deep in My Heart" or "Down in My Heart." That's what it makes you think of. You just are in tears listening to them. Several years ago, I spoke on the Lord's Prayer, and the people, every single woman came up to me and wanted a copy of my lesson, or my lecture, and it was just unbelievable to me. The joy and the faith, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad you confirmed that, Sue, and added more. That helps all of us. One thing you just said, you talked about the Lord's Prayer, and Jerry knows where I'm going with this. And Sue, this is a private revelation from somebody that we know. Jerry and I know it's a private revelation, so you can believe it or not. But this person is receiving messages from Jesus, and she was saying that Jesus is saying that we don't say the Lord's Prayer enough, and we don't say it deeply enough. Real quickly, Sue, any comments on that? Because you did a teaching on that.
Yes, absolutely. I broke it down and spoke about each of the phrases. And yes, it is so true. We don't say it enough, and we don't. I know growing up Catholic, it was a rote prayer. It was just, similar to "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned." That fast just got it through. But when you sit and you listen to the Lord's Prayer and you go through it phrase by phrase, you can't help but be just in awe of the love God has for us and how He wants us to pray to Him. It's just amazing. Yes. I am always, when I say the Lord's Prayer now, for me, it is the most perfect prayer. To me, it is the most perfect prayer. And I will be driving, and I will just be saying it over and over again, not in a rote way, but listening to the words that I'm saying. And it's incredible. So, I think we need to teach it much more to our children in a way that is not just getting it memorized, but fully understanding it.
Well, yeah. I mean, why to back up what you're saying, Sue? I know you know this well, and Debbie and our listeners. When it was when the disciples asked Jesus to teach them how to pray. That's the prayer that he gave them, and of course, that's the prayer that he gave us. So you said it's almost like the perfect prayer, Sue. I would say, yeah, I would agree with you on that, because if it's the one that Jesus gave us and said, "This is how you are to pray," boy, you can't go wrong. And we do go wrong if we don't say that prayer, like you said, Sue, with intentionality and deep devotion.
Yeah. Did Sue have another comment? Did you have another comment, Sue? Oh, I don't. Do you hear her? I don't hear Sue. Okay, there you are.
There she
I'm
is.
sorry. I'm sorry. Somebody is trying to beep in.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, I just the whole thing with the labels, and again, the African Christianity is amazing. I mean, I could go on and on about about Sudan and the South Sudan, and and people. It's just incredible. I was involved with a refugee church for several years, and we dealt with Sudanese coming over and such, and it was just their faith is
it's strong. Yeah, it's strong. Well, Sue, thank you. Thank you so much for the missionary work that you do and continue to do. Thank you for building the kingdom. That is just so beautiful. You're a precious soul. Call anytime. Thank you for listening to Take Two. Thank you for being part of the Take Two family. You definitely contributed and graced this conversation. So God bless you, Sue. And we're getting also some comments from our listeners, Jerry. They really appreciated Yen's call as well. So Yen, if you're still listening from Sweden, call us again. You were very popular with our Take Two family. Okay.
Yeah, and Sue's call has just prompted within me a little bit of an inspiration, maybe more than a little bit. Sue, thank you for that. Thanks again for your call. Have a blessed day. But now is a good time, I think, Debbie, you'll agree with me, for all of us to take time to reflect on what we still have in the United States, and many people around the world still have the freedom to worship. I mean, it has been restricted in many ways because of the pandemic and so forth. We understand that. But at least, aside from that, we still have the freedom to gather, to assemble, to worship, and to praise our God. And, faith in Jesus Christ and living according to his teachings, and that includes faithful attendance and participation in Mass. That's the doorway to heaven. We cannot neglect that. We cannot ignore that. Obviously, the Eucharist is very important. So I just say to anybody listening right now, maybe your faith hasn't gotten kind of comfortable or anything like that. Maybe you're still very fervent, but just stop and see, how much deeper can I go? How much deeper can I go, and how can I help other people go deeper? Because, Debbie, I think we're entering into times right now where it is going to be, the Bible talks about, a lot of people falling away from the faith. I had this thought come to my head the other day, and I know I'm rambling on here, but
you're not. Keep going.
You know how they talk about people who swim the Tiber, right? Those who convert to Catholicism, it's called swimming the Tiber because you cross the Tiber River to get into Vatican City State. Well, you can swim the Tiber in two directions. Okay, we need to understand that. We often think of it as those who are converting to Catholicism, but a lot of people can, quote unquote, swim their way across the Tiber right out of the church. So let us make sure that does not happen to us. We need to be fervent in our prayer, our Mass attendance, and in doing good works to help other people come to know the Lord and his mercy and love.
Mm-hmm. That was well said. Boy, that's going to give us a lot to think about, so much so that we probably want to listen to this broadcast again. So if you want to, Take Two encores tonight at midnight Eastern Time. So if you want to hear the rebroadcast of this show, just check in at midnight tonight. And you'll hear Take Two again. And Jerry, we want to mention, we've got emails coming in from our dear friends from Canada, Marion and Christopher. And Zach made a very interesting comment from a relative in Brazil. I mean, there's so much happening of people's understanding of the U.S. right now. And so we should probably get to those comments as well.
Yeah, well, you mentioned our good friends Marion and Christopher in Canada, and Marion sent this email to take2@EWTN.com. We are immigrants from Sri Lanka who came to Canada almost 30 years ago to give our kids a good future. Thank God we managed to do the same by the grace of God, but we are praying hard for our grandchildren. We used to love to come over to the USA for a holiday or for shopping. It was a treat for us. Unfortunately, now we are not comfortable visiting the United States. It will not be too long before Canada becomes the same or worse. We came to Canada due to the civil war in Sri Lanka. It looks like you have a worse war going on in the USA at this moment. Praying hard for the world, but mostly for our Catholic Church. Thanks and God bless. Marion and Christopher.
Well, that's another reason, too, that a lot of, and thank you to all the priests, pastors, and bishops that are coming forward and saying, if you feel safe, if everything's going well in your area, please come back to church. Physically come back to church. It's so important. We must, get the graces flowing in a huge way, and we do that when we participate, in at the Mass, and also to receive, to actually consume the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord and Savior in the Holy Eucharist. Very important participation at Mass. I mean, online is great, but being there is definitely the full picture of what is intended for us. Okay, there is time to get in on the air. Ryan has got his hand on the handset ready to go to pick up your call. If you want, we could easily get one or two more calls in. Please call this number, 833-288-3986, or if you're outside North America, dial 1-205-271-2985. Okay. And Zach, don't forget what Zach said about his nephew's wife in Brazil.
Yeah, that's the email that I had pulled up right here again at take2@EWTN.com. Zach, who's a regular listener and contributor via email, we so appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for being a part of the Take Two family. And he's kind of reflecting on what you were talking about earlier, Debbie. He says, Dear Jerry and Debbie, my wife's nephew is from Brazil. She can't believe how people complain about America when we have so much to be grateful for. See, that touches right on what you were saying a little bit ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't want to lose the blessings, the abundant blessings that our Lord has given to us here. And I just feel sometimes we're forgetting all the good. We focus on the little bit of the bad or negative that's happening. We don't give credit to all the good. So let's do that now. There's time to call in. Please weigh in on this if you have a take on this topic. 833-288-3986. Okay, Jerry, do we have more comments? And we have calls coming in, so that's good. We could probably get one or two more in, right?
Yeah, there is time. Outside North America, 1-205-271-2985. Joanna is watching on YouTube on the video stream. Hi, Joanna. Saying, we are considering a move to Poland in the near future for our son's sake and ours, as life in Poland is protected from conception until natural death. That is a huge consideration.
I have to tell you, I've been so curious, so intrigued with what's going on in Poland. I actually looked up so many things about living there. That is so interesting. But the way she said it, for our son's sake and for ours, as life in Poland is protected from conception until natural death. Wow. Okay. Where are we going next?
Well, I just wanted to make a quick comment on that, on Joanne's, thoughts and rationale for wanting to move to Poland. There was a time when, unborn life was far more protected in this country than it is currently. And, we can only hope and pray, because I was talking a little bit ago about, the importance of, just being prayerful and attending Mass and being fervent and intentional and devout in our faith. Well, likewise, we have to really fight and pray for the protection of the unborn children, the most vulnerable. Jesus, how much did he say about children, kids in the Bible? Let the little ones come unto me. And we're not even giving some of them a chance to live. And so we really need to pray, as everybody listening to this program, I presume, knows right now, that this is kind of the obvious, but that is one of those things that I think is going to prevent many of the graces that God might otherwise want to bestow on this country.
This has really turned out to be a great show. I've learned a lot. I hope our listeners have as well. Okay, can we get to Warren real quickly?
Sure.
In Illinois? Okay, Warren in Illinois, Sirius XM 130. Thanks for calling in so quickly. Welcome. Hi, Warren.
Hi, how are you today?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. I'm calling because I've been listening to the show, and I want to politely and respectfully disagree with some of the comments. I drive all over the United States as a long-haul trucker. I've been in L.A., Chicago, Detroit, New York City this year during the pandemic. It's the friendliest country I've ever been in my life. People are friendlier than, like, I've known them for decades. They help me. Just this morning, I was in Elkhart, Illinois, and I was trying to do some tarp work, and a total stranger came over and helped me. You don't get that in Canada. You don't get that in other countries. The next thing is, I'm being quick, I know, but the media is lying, and it's incorrect for us to believe that our society's falling apart. All we got to do is look around. Mm-hmm. People love one another, but we have criminals. We have horrible individuals happening. A pandemic is happening. But, man, America's an amazing country filled with beautiful people that will give the shirt off their back for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm a Canuck. I see it all over the place. I wish Canada was as nice as America. I really do. Well, anyways, that's my comment.
Warren, I just want to say thank you for the work you do, being a trucker. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to Take Two. I think we can safely say we agree with you. I feel the same way. I think we're from the top down. We are being told a story that is now going out there into the world that we are bad. We don't like people of different, faiths and different races, and that's just, it's not the experience of what's happening with people in their local areas. And I agree with you. I live in Arizona. If God forbid I had a flat tire, this is no joke. If I had a flat tire on the side of the freeway in Arizona, there would be 3 or 4 cars that would quickly pull over and make sure that I had assistance, either AAA or a cell phone. That's how beautiful the people are that I live around, and it's amazing. And we all come from different backgrounds, different faiths, different races, everything. It's just beautiful. So I agree with you, Warren. People are great, and we need to focus on that. What do you think, Jerry?
Well, Warren, yeah, I agree with Debbie, Warren. We're in complete agreement with you on this. And I'm reminded of a quote, I think it was attributed to Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. He says, "We don't give people what we want. We tell people what they want." By creating products, it creates this demand among people, and you're kind of dictating what it is that they want to purchase and utilize as far as gadgets in their lives. Same thing. You're right. There is a disconnect between the narrative that's being presented and reality. And I in the area where I live too, you just go around the city and people are just nice and normal and wonderful and helpful and all of this stuff. So. I don't know. Maybe one of the things we can do, Debbie, is turn the news off or something.
Yeah. Well, and a perfect example of that, Warren, is we had, Peter from India made some comments about that they're hearing that there's all these bad things happening to people of color here, and what's happening, what happened at the Capitol, everything. And so if that story gets expanded in such a dramatic way, of course it's going to, instill fear in people. And that's terrible because that's not who we are. So I think that's what you're saying, Warren. And I hope people can really peel away all of that garbage that we're listening to and get to the truth. Warren, thank you so much. We appreciate the call today. Jerry, this was a great topic. You should put another one like this on the calendar again.
Perhaps we will. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thank the show team, Michael, Jeff, Ryan. Thank the affiliates for carrying the program. We continue along tomorrow, Debbie. We're going to ask our listeners, what are you most passionate about? I know you love that kind of a conversation.
I think that was my topic I put on. I'm super excited about that one. Okay, folks, we just love you to pieces. So until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day. St. Joseph, in the year of St. Joseph, please pray for us.